It's not the ivory tower type of job, where you're the dentist. And I've seen so many dentists with such high egos, it just drives me nuts. It's like, I'm a dentist, this is what we're supposed to do. And they talk to their team, and I've been one of them. They talk to their team like they're indentured servants, or they're somebody who, I hired you to do this job and this is the way it's going to be. But I've seen it over and over and over again. Step back. And if you want to be an uncommon leader, a legendary leader, you have to do things uncommon. You have to do things that are outside of the box. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Bruce B. Baird, and you're listening to the Productive Dentist Podcast. In this podcast, I will give you everything that I've learned over the last 40 years in dentistry, working with thousands of dentists. I'll tell you, it's not that my way is the only way. It's just one that has worked extremely well for me, and I'd love to share that with you, so you too can enjoy the choices and lifestyle that productivity allows. More time for things you love, increased pay, better team relationships, and lowered stress. Let's get into it with this week's episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. Hi, this is Dr. Bruce Baird with the Productive Dentist Podcast, and this is episode 113. And I'm going to talk today, and I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about mentorship, and not so much from the perspective of me mentoring others, but some of the people who have been mentors to me. And that's a big deal. In the last episode, I was talking about Colonel Cryer, Paul Cryer, who was my boss when I was stationed at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio back in the early 80s. And he became quite a mentor and a personal friend. And it's okay to become a personal friend. But Paul Cryer was one of those guys because he walked the talk. And in mentorship and in leadership, you've got to be somebody who walks the talk. And he did. And he was one of those guys. Other early mentors, I've talked about my dad. He was a mentor. I've talked about many people. My coach in high school basketball, very great guy. His motivation, he was not a motivational speaker, put it to you that way. What he would say is he would always say, "You guys, I mean, he would, I don't know, he would always put the negative swing on everything. You guys are just, you didn't practice. This is where you're at now because of it." In other words, it was almost a blaming mentorship. We all loved him because we wanted to win and we were working great as a team. And he was a good mentor. He would work with us individually. I think back to those type of experiences, baseball, having great leadership figures, and what I would call a leadership figure is being, a mentor. Other mentors that I've had in my career besides, Paul Cryer, I went into private practice, and it became something that was, I had gotten the opportunity in the military to work with some of the best dentists, prosthodontists, oral surgeons, across the board, endodontists. And I got to kind of pick their brain and learn from them. So they were all mentors to me. And I made that an important part of my education. And I challenge you to do the same. When you go to courses, learn everything you can from these people that are teaching. You may not want to do it that way. I think about going to Pat Allen's course and talking about it and loving doing the first day doing connective tissue grafting and all of that stuff. So he was a mentor in that arena of education for me. Now, personally, I can't stand using 6-0 sutures and spending 2 hours doing a procedure. That's just not in my DNA. So, but Jeff Buski, my partner, he loves that. But I still look at Dr. Allen as a mentor. But I go back to people like Carl Misch, and Carl and I over the years became very good friends. And Paul was Carl. I was going to talk about Paul Homily as teaching me communication skills, but anyway, go to Carl. Carl Mish was one of my mentors. My first sinus graft I did back in I was probably 87. Uh, Carl was actually my dental assistant doing the case. And he told me to hold the osteotome still as we were tapping on the sinus membrane. And I said, I'm trying, I'm shaking. We're fixing to tap a hole in this guy's head. So, but Carl was so intelligent, photographic memory. Everything was backed by literature. Everything was just. I loved the structure of the way he taught, and so he was a mentor to me. Now, I've taken that from him, and I try to do that with my team and with the people that I work around. Is you know, be full of be full of information, be a source of information for your team, but you don't have to be the only source of information. Um, yeah, I go to Pete Dawson. Pete was a great mentor. He wrote the foreword in my book on implants back in '91, and just these guys are incredibly talented clinicians, but they also figured out ways to be good leaders. Now, uh, you know, you look at people personally, there are some people who I'd look up to as a mentor in their personal relationships. Um, One of them, I have to say is, one of my son-in-laws. I look at how he treats my daughter, and it gives me, actually, I'm not going to say one of my son-in-laws, several of my son-in-laws, how they treat my daughters. And I look at that, and a mentor doesn't have to be older than you. They don't have to be a seasoned pro at being a mentor or being a leader. But I look at how they respond, how they take care of family, how they take care of people. And that to me is massively important. And so I consider myself a sponge when it comes to learning about leadership, when it comes to learning about not only mentorship, but becoming a mentor to others. These are all things that really play a massive role, in my opinion, into my own personal growth. Um, and it's when I think of Carl Mish, when I think of Pete Dawson, when I think of Paul Cryer, Colonel Cryer, when I think of people who are not so into themselves that they can also share with you information, maybe clinically, maybe personally. Um, Bob Holloway uh, was my pastor in the early 80s, mid 80s. And he's the one that got me to start reading books about, I don't know, about compassion and love and things that I was struggling with. I was looking for joy, but not getting joy. And so you have to be a student of these things. And he helped me through counseling with him and him opening up my eyes to different ways of thinking. And I look at him as a major mentor in my life. I would not be where I am today without the people I'm talking about. And you know, when everything seems like it's going south, when it's not going the right direction, when you can have somebody that you trust that can give you guidance, to me, that's a mentor, that's a leader. Um, because we all get in those situations. We all are in them at different times. But having those folks that we can talk to, mentoring with friendships. We have a group that we haven't been doing it since COVID, but five or six of us, friends for years, will get together and go have breakfast and talk about things and share where we're at in our life, and trying to learn from their experiences, them learning from my experiences, and just sharing information with close friends. I think that's also um, another huge part of this. But in order to be a legendary leader, you have to be a legendary mentor to those that are around you. And I don't know if I've ever put those two things directly together like that, but it really is true. And think about this. If someone's your mentor, what does that mean? Well, it means you actually listen to them. There are a lot of people that were supposedly my mentor, but um, I didn't want to be like them. I didn't really, they were telling me what to do, but they weren't that person that I wanted to be like. I may have blindly accepted them eventually, uh, had influence from them. But as my emotional intelligence got better, as I got to understand people better, some of those people fell to the wayside. Some of those mentors fell to the wayside. So, me personally, I love helping somebody, whether they be Summer, my on my team, and Gay. They have challenges, personal challenges in their life, and if there's anything I can do to help them, or Shannon, or any of those, I'm there for them. Um, it's having a difference between people being afraid to come tell you things and people feeling welcome to come tell you things that are going on in their life, in your own business, in across the world, everything that's going on. So I just want to be a source of and a place where they can come and share their stuff. It's kind of, I always joke about Summer. Summer has the ability to be able to tell me, did I take my meds today? Why? Because early on in my career, I would have said, "What are you talking about? Go do your job. Let's forget about this and let's go do what we're supposed to do. We're in the battle." So, think about those things. You want to be a good leader, be a great mentor, um, be a good friend, help them get to where they want to be. The old adage, if you help enough people get where they want to be, you'll end up where you want to be. And early on, I wanted to do everything myself. I wanted to be the source of all information because I could control that. I thought I could. But when I learned that being a mentor is sharing things with people, maybe we call it training, maybe we call it training opportunities, but it's helping people become the person that they can become, that they may not know. And that gets down to hiring the perfect team. How do we hire that perfect team? I'm going to talk about that in the next podcast. But how do we do that? Who are we looking for? What are the traits of that person? What I know is the the more I put my guard down and allowed people to share information with me, it allowed me to be able to start sharing information with them. And it's not the ivory tower type of job, where you're the dentist. And I've seen so many dentists with such high egos, it just drives me nuts. It's like, I'm a dentist. This is what we're supposed to do. And they talk to their team. And I've been one of them. They talk to their team like they're indentured servants, or they're somebody who, I hired you to do this job and this is the way it's going to be. But I've seen it over and over and over again. Step back. And if you want to be a uncommon, an uncommon leader, a legendary leader, you have to do things uncommon. You have to do things that are outside of the box. And what I love now is I'm seeing some young docs that have been through Productive Dentist Academy over the years. These guys are unbelievable leaders, and they're 4 years in. They're 5 years, 6 years into their practices. And I look at it and I go, wow, I wish I would have had that kind of leadership skills when I first started out. And I'm not going to whine and cry about it. I didn't have them, but it doesn't mean I can't have them. It doesn't mean I can't become a great leader. Yes, some people it comes really easy. I think once I learned some of the rules, it came really easy, but it was really hard to start with. So anyway, challenge yourself to become that leader, that legendary leader, and that legendary mentor. And I think those words can almost be interchanged. Become that legendary mentor and that legendary leader to your team. I love the fact that I have mentors that are clinical mentors. Paul Homily teaching me communication skills back in the 80s. These are all things that I took and have continued to work on and continued to help. So I'm very, very thankful for all my mentors, and I haven't even mentioned half of them, not even a third of them. So, but over the years, I'm going to continue to share those people who have been a big influence on me. And my dad, my mom, both big influences. But in the world of business, I had to learn. I had to learn a lot, and I think all of us do. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I will be back, and tell your friends about it, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, make sure you subscribe. Pass it along to a friend. Give us a like on iTunes and Spotify, or drop me an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. Don't forget to check out other podcasts from the Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentistpodcast.com. Join me again next week for another episode of the Productive Dentist Podcast.